A lot going on in the sports world. Dexter Henry here. Wanted to get my guys together because there's a lot to talk about, and we're just going to get right into it today. Obviously, a lot also just going on in the world in general, and we saw today in the NBA, no matter how you felt about how things should go with the NBA, we saw the Milwaukee Bucks protest, boycott, whatever you want to call it, refuse to play basically in Game 5 against the Orlando Magic. We saw that this coming after, yes, people, another black man was shot. This time not killed, shot 7 times in the back, and there's no excusing that or defending that or making up reasons as to why that shouldn't happen. A lot of players angry, guys. Got Bryan Fonseca, my co-host from the Ain't Hard to Style podcast, my man Jarod, Hector, host of the 7 Footers podcast, also does a lot of great work with True Hoop, and my man Jamal Murphy, host of the Bros Pod, also writer for theundefeated.com. Guys, a lot, as I said, has been going on with this, and we saw this. But first, let's start with the fact of the Bucks deciding to not play in this Game 5. I did not see this coming, but as it came, I had a lot of emotions around it. What did you guys? Were you guys shocked as I was in the moment? How did you feel about what we saw today?
I mean, the first thing I want to say is I think language is so important. We're all content creators. We're all writers. So this is a strike. This isn't a boycott, right? Boycott's about consumerism, right? That's when you're like, all right, I'm not fucking with Jeff Bezos, so I ain't buying no shit from Amazon. Okay, you're boycotting Amazon. Striking is about withholding labor, right? These players said, you know what? We are not going to play these games because we feel as though the things that are going on in our society as it relates to race relations, we're not cool with it. We thought we're going to come down here, have this platform, be able to make change. The change isn't happening at the rate at which we want to see it, right? Breonna Taylor's killer is still out here on the streets doing Lord knows what, right? We just saw, again, Jacob Blake shot 7 times in the back. I mean, in front of his kids. Like, this stuff happens literally. I know with Murph, you and Dexter's dads, like, I'm sure that hit you guys in a way different way.
Yeah.
This is our daily experience, right? And we know change, especially because what we're talking about, guys, is policy change. It ain't about changing hearts and minds. We're not doing that. That's not happening. Policies have to be changed in order for behavior to change. That's how you get these things, these systems to react differently. Because the way they're doing right now, they're going and they're acting and they're performing exactly how they were designed to, right? A country built on racism and chattel slavery. Well, what do you think our institutions are going to look like? They do exactly what they're supposed to do, which is uphold white supremacy. And I'm really happy that the players decided, you know what? We're going to do something about this. We're going to strike, not play these games. Now, I know having a meeting in like a couple minutes, the players down there about what the next step is that they're going to do, right? Because, all right, cool, we're sitting now, but how are we going to enact this change? I know the Bucks players we're talking to, the Attorney General, the governor. These are the things that have to get moved in motion because it's about district attorneys, governors, right? Politicians who can actually say, okay, here is the law now. No more qualified immunity. No more this, no more that. These are the things that have to change. But ultimately, it's got to be about all of us, right? I love the NBA. I love what they're doing. But we shouldn't be looking to these guys to do this shit. It's about what kind of world you want to live in? What kind of world do you want your sons to grow up in, Jamal? What kind of world do you want your daughter to grow up in, Dex, right? That is what we got. It's about us. We got to do this together and not rely and wait on, all right, let's these NBA guys go ahead and do it. All right, that's enough. I know I've been ranting.
That was a good point. That was definitely a good point. Anybody else shocked reaction to what you saw that happened at this game that was supposed to start at 4:10 Eastern for Game 5? Bucks Magic didn't happen, and I should also add all the NBA games of the day then were postponed. We saw tweets from LeBron saying enough of this shit, and also pretty much said fuck this, which is really strong language as why people are upset. The players are frustrated. Jamal, what about you? Were you shocked at what you saw with this coming? Because like I said, we saw a lot of talk about it, but I didn't know if it was going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming, especially this particular game. I didn't see the Bucks coming. some of the stuff that Fred VanVleet was saying, seemed straight from the heart. So I was like, wow, maybe they are really talking about this. Same thing with Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We're echoing the same thoughts. But yeah, so I didn't see this one coming. I actually was like, oh, 4:00. Let me turn on NBA TV, see what's going on. See if these, I just thought the regular game, and then when they said they weren't coming out, I was like, wow. It's a powerful statement. Obviously, they're not going to, this gesture or protest alone is not going to change everything. But I think it's significant because we've never seen anything like this. Bill Russell back in the day, threatened to boycott a playoff game. Nothing like that has happened since then. So I think this is huge. You see baseball, Milwaukee Brewers, they followed right away. It's funny how the NBA is like, it's like the trendsetter. They were the first to shut down for COVID, and everybody just followed lockstep. And it's the same thing here. And now it's all over the news, CNN, MSNBC. I don't know what Fox News is doing. But all these stations are talking about it, so I do think it's a huge deal, and you got to give it to the NBA players. I mean, they're leaders with this stuff. I mean, I know it's on all of us, like Hector said, it's on all of us to really make things happen. But they are the ones who are actually stepping out there and doing something before any of us, really. While I agree that it's policy changes is going to be what it's going to take. But, hearts and minds are really the first thing, because we got the election coming up. If we don't get a change change the people who are in power now, we can forget any policy changes. So it really is about getting some different people in there and changing and getting people to vote. Where LeBron with his More Than a Vote initiative, that's huge. So I got to give the NBA a lot of credit here. Give the Bucks a lot of credit for taking this first step, and the rest of the NBA, going along with it and supporting them. Absolutely.
Bryan, what about you? What was your reaction to all this when you saw it go down?
I was happy that the Bucks did this, because in order to really force change, you have to just do it yourself. You have to really just create the change you want to see at the end of the day. I had two major points, and I'll keep this as brief as I could in the interest of time. But I think, one, we're just all of us in general kind of rely on the NBA too much. We're putting so much on these dudes and on WNBA players as well, who are out here. They wore the shirts that had 7 bullets in the back, and they canceled all their games as well. And we know the WNBA has been at the forefront of change even more so than the NBA. When it comes to all of this, especially in the last 5 years, and we know Maya Moore retired and gave up her career, being basically the LeBron of the WNBA in her prime, and gave up her career to fight some of this stuff. So I think we're just relying on the NBA so much, where it's I understand what they're doing, obviously, to impact everything, but it's we have to also do this, to your point. We can't just sit here and rely on NBA players who are around my age. I'm 26 years old. The average NBA player is probably 26, 27 years old if you just do the balancing act. And we're relying on all of these dudes to help fix America's issues. That's crazy. That's crazy that we're sitting here in this country today that has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of just systemic issues that we're fighting against still. And we're trusting the NBA before anybody else to go out and solve this. We're putting too much on their plate. And it's weighing guys down emotionally to where it's like Doc Rivers said yesterday in that emotional testimony at the end of the game. He's like, yo, I should just be a coach. And that's the thing. It's when you're black in America, when you're Hispanic, whatever the case may be, you can't just be who you want to be. You have to be more than that. I mean, technically you don't have to, because you could also just turn on your people and be successful, as we've seen. But what you really have to do is you have to just wait. Dex, you can't turn your blackness off. Jamal, Jarod, everywhere you go, you're going to be black. So automatically, it's these are the things that people have to fight against. And it's just more than I think a lot of people understand. And we're putting all that on NBA players, and we need to obviously step up and help them. So I'm glad and grateful that they're doing the work, but we also have to help them in that regard. And there was a debate about whether or not people should be apologizing to Kyrie Irving and all this. And I think Kyrie is right, and I think LeBron was right, because at the end of the day, I do think that while they would have made an impact by not playing and not coming back altogether, I think why this especially resonates is because they came back to play, and then they said, you know what, in a playoff game, we're not going to play. I don't think this hits the same way if they just never came back to the bubble, because let's be honest, whether or not they came back to the bubble, that shooting still was probably going to happen, because again, the NBA is not going to solve America's issues in that way. So I think because they were about to play, then it happened, and then the Milwaukee Bucks stepped up and was the first ones that was like, nah. And we obviously know how NBA players feel, a handful of them aside. We don't have to get into that. But generally how NBA players feel is like, yo, we need to fix this shit. And they woke up in the middle of the playoffs, and they're going to obviously, do what they do. And quite frankly, I don't give a fuck if we see an NBA Finals at this point, if we're going to make real progress towards this. So at the end of the day, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Something
go ahead,
changed
Jamal.
too, right? Yeah, something changed. Like they came back, they had all, everything on the jerseys. This is after Breonna Taylor. They come in talking about Breonna Taylor, and they're talking about George Floyd. They got the Black Lives Matter on the court. They talk.
All good things.
Yeah, all good things. And then what happened? Someone, while they're doing all this, someone else gets shot in the back. So I think for them, probably they were like, oh wow, look at this. We thought, they probably thought that they were helping the situation, or were a positive impact, or trying to be. And then what do you know? This is still America. A day later, someone gets shot in the back 7 times. So I think it was a shock to their system. Yeah. And they're probably like, wait a second, what are we doing? Like, this is not working. We got to go even further. So I think it was just, the circumstances of the event.
No, I think, Jamal, I think you're right on that about how it got pushed forward. And I think we all here in this conversation, we knew something else was coming. I knew something else was coming, and I was very intrigued in watching how not just players, but this country reacted to that. And I've been saying this from the jump. This is a different time. Nobody's going to sit down anymore and say, oh, this is the next shooting. And this is very serious, because a man didn't die here, but now is paralyzed and was shot in front of his children. And Jarod, you brought up about how that hits home for me and Murph, who are both parents. And yes, it does hit home, because we know we could be in our cars and we could be shot in front of our children just because of the color of our skin. And because of the color of our skin, we don't get the benefit of the doubt many times. That goes for all of us, our black brothers and sisters, our Latino brothers and sisters, our Asian Native American brothers and sisters. This happens, and especially for black people in this country with the history, we know this happens. You're going to see some people, I saw this around the conversation today, guys, on Twitter. Some people are like, well, what does this do? What is going to come of this? They're going to strike, and I want to use the word strike effectively, as Jarod said. They're going to strike, and sort of then what? I look at it, and I'm going to put my thoughts out here, is that, look, this is what Jarod was talking about. This is putting pressure on the people who own these teams to now, who have a lot of tie-in with policymakers, politicians, lobbyists. They have a lot of these tie-ins monetarily. This now pushes pressure on them to actually get some action. And one thing that should be noted is the Bucks were on the phone in the locker room when he didn't come out, talking to the Wisconsin governor, and I believe deputy governor as well, to trying to get some things enacted as far as what's going on in Wisconsin right now. I think a lot can come out of this. As Jamal, I believe it was your words, you said this is a very powerful moment. I absolutely think it's powerful. I really hate when people trivialize actions of strike or protest and say that they're not powerful, as if they have the answers of some other way to do this. I think it's a powerful moment, guys. Where do you think things go from here in terms of moving this forward? Like, what is next for the NBA in this? And I do want to say one other point, because I think Bryan also brought this up too. When people looked at what was going on the court, the kneeling, the Black Lives Matter shirt, all that stuff, that was controlled protest. This is now, and I think I tweeted about this earlier, this is now protesting where we're coloring outside the lines here. This is not something anybody expected or saw. I think it's intriguing how the sports world and the NBA reacts to this. So where do you guys think we go from here now that this has been done and we've seen people strike against these games?
Well, I think the interesting part here to remember is that the NBA as a whole entity is a business, right? And it came out quickly. So Milwaukee said, okay, we're not playing this game, right? We're striking. Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook go into a meeting. They come out. Okay, it looks like they're also going to go on strike. Before the Lakers could even say a word, the NBA says, what? We're postponing all these games. And in a way, what the NBA is doing, Adam Silver is helping the players out. Why is that? Because if the players strike because of language within the CBA, the owners can rip up the current CBA, and now that means we're entering into a new negotiation ahead of time. And again, in these labor negotiations, it's about who, at the end of the day, has the most control and power. It has been seen for the last several years that the players have more power. You think Mark Lazary, what's his face, in Herb Simon and whoever, you think they're cool with that? Nah, they're not. They're going to be like, no, we want to tilt the scales back in our favor. And so from a basketball and a CBA standpoint, what you have now, and while when the players are meeting, they have to be very strategic about what their next move is going to be, because the owners can wait this out, right? Like, billionaires have more money than millionaires, right? So they got a little bit of a longer runway to be like, all right, we don't need this. So if you're going to use, to your point, put pressure and use their connections, look at your matrix on your 30 NBA owners. Not all billionaires are created equal, right? Certain dudes got a lot of money, like Josiah, whatever. He's probably cool. You know who needs their NBA team? The Lakers, the Buss family. They need their NBA team. Tillman Fertitta, he needs his NBA team, right? There are certain people, because of whatever their monetary situation is, they need their team. Those are the people I'm starting to put the screws to if I'm the players, to get them to do stuff. Because again, if you are Josiah, I'm good money, baby. Got Alibaba. I'm straight. Like, we're good. Like, what? Now, Joe and Clara seem to be good people who want to help, and they do all this. I'm giving money to this cause, and here's $50 million to this charity or whatever. But let's be real. Anybody who's a billionaire, at best case, they've done some slightly underhanded thing to amass that money. Best case scenario. More than likely, they've committed some horrific crimes. And here's the reality. You know, I always go into economics. There are 400 billionaires in the United States. 400. There are 40 million people living in poverty.
I know where you're going.
Those aren't parallel stats. Those
Yeah.
are interrelated stats.
Yeah.
You know how you have 400 billionaires? Because you got 40 million people living in poverty. That's how that works. And
How many black billionaires?
well, shit, like 2, right? So, like, I mean,
Hey, we ain't got that many either. I'm gonna let y'all know.
I was including you in that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, let's go.
to quote my guy Chris Rock, you know, if Bill Gates woke up with Oprah's money, he'd kill himself, right? Like, that's the level in these billionaires, right?
Right.
And so we have to just be mindful of that at the end of the day, it's about these dollars. And so can the players do what they need to do to exert enough pressure? Me, millionaire player, exert enough pressure on you, my billionaire partner and boss. And that is a delicate balance to walk. It's challenging, but I know these guys are smart. LeBron, Chris, all them, they want to do right by the society and the world. They do. The question is, are they going to get the requisite help they need from the billionaire ruling class? I got my thoughts on that.
Right. And in terms of, strategy, I think they have to look outside of their, the immediate NBA circle. So I'm my first thought was, they got to get like Sharpton involved, or someone like that who has experience, leveraging these type of situations. So what's their next move? I don't know, but I hope, and I would think that LeBron and Chris Paul, et cetera, are reaching out to other people who move in this world, who are used to, negotiating these type of things. I actually think the NBA, and I would think inadvertently, stepped on the players a little bit by canceling it, because look, it would have been so much more powerful. It's almost like people were complaining about the protests. Like, it's not really a protest because the NBA is co-signing it. So you're not what are you protesting? It's like a demonstration, I guess.
But they helped them though,
right?
Language-wise, legally, because if the NBA, if the players said now we're striking, CBA is getting ripped up. So they actually did them a favor by saying postpone.
In that way, when you look at it the other way, in terms of the stance they're really taking. Again, the NBA is allowing them to do this, so they're not hurting from doing this. Even though I think I don't think the Bucks knew what the NBA was going to do. I think they were willing to take that on at the start. Like, whatever happens, happens. We're going to risk it all. You know what I'm saying? Or some, obviously not all. Right?
Here's what
They were willing to risk something, and the NBA, by canceling the games, kind of smoothed that out for them, and it doesn't look like, now we don't know, are they working together? When do they start playing again? So in terms of next move, we'll see. But I do think you have, like I said before, you have to bring somebody from the outside in, who's really a power broker to help them out.
I will say this: I know that the players were all talking to one another leading up to when the Bucks decided they weren't coming out today. After, of course, once the Jacob Blake footage came out, and you heard Fred VanVleet and Brown and Tatum and George Hill was the loudest voice in the room for Milwaukee to get them to be like, "Yo, we're not playing." And those guys, yes, they compete. They're all friends. They all text each other. I can imagine what the NBA group chats are like, right? It's probably crazy. So they're all like, "Listen, man, this is what we're thinking. What do you?" And so they're getting the leaders on each team to get together and say, "Look, man, these guys are thinking about doing X." Once the Bucks pull the trigger, no one has come out and confirmed this, but I believe, just based on the stuff that I've heard from certain people, there was no way the other teams were going to come out and play either. Like, once that happened, Chris Paul was like, "All right, we're not going," and LeBron was like, "We're definitely not." Right? So, like, they weren't going to go anyway. So the NBA kind of just, jumped the gun on that and just said, "Well, let's just put it all red."
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting moving forward, and there has been some people critics of it. In that, I think we talked about what Brian brought up, the point that we shouldn't just look at NBA players for this. All the pressure shouldn't be on them to do that, and it could empower us, even us who are sitting here having this discussion, right? We can be empowered by this. Do you guys think? And Brian, I'll toss this to you first. Do you think that a movement like this empowers everyday people, for lack of a better term, especially people of color, especially black folks in this country, saying, "Look, we can take a stand. It's time for me to go out there and fight for what I want, and policy and legislation and things I want to see"? Do you think a movement like this has it? Because everybody talks about how important it is to see sports on the court. But I think activism in sports, people having voices in that, can also amplify and inspire other people as well, too. Do you see it that way?
I may go as far as to say we've seen it already to some degree in the aftermath of all the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and during those protests, as NBA players got involved with the people. And I think there was a certain marriage there, before the NBA players went back into the bubble. So yeah, I think because of the way we look at the NBA as being the social sort of relatable league, and the NBA is filled with good guys, and the way we look at it, I think that when it comes to that, we're going to look at them in that way. My question is probably, what are the other leagues going to do? Again, not to necessarily look at the athletes, but when the NBA and the WNBA step up as often as they do, and they're doing it again, what is Major League Baseball, a conservative league, for the most part at least, is going to do? But technically all these leagues are conservative because of the owners and things like that, but we don't have to get into those semantics, but you know what I'm saying. Major League Baseball, the NFL, which is about to play in a couple of weeks, and people aren't really talking about it, if they're going to do anything. Not this Jerry Jones, hey, let's all go arm in arm, take a knee, stare at the camera, smile, and all that bullshit that he was doing amid the Colin Kaepernick thing. And oh, by the way, is Colin Kaepernick ever going to get a job again in the NFL? Probably not. But what are the other leagues going to do is what I'm going to be looking for as we, just sort of continue this. And where does the NBA go from here? Because we don't know how long this is going to last. I feel comfortable saying they're not going to play tomorrow, but are we going to just cancel the playoffs? That's going to be interesting to see, because that really puts pressure on the owners in order to step up and do stuff, because they're going to go to their owners and they're going to demand not saying owners. They're going to go to the CEOs of these teams and demand that they actually put forth the money for this change, put money where their mouth is, and really demand this. Are the NBA players willing to sacrifice their season? I kind of feel like they are. However, I don't feel like they should have to, which is the bigger issue. But that's more of a thing that's just cut into America's fabric. Because the NBA shouldn't have to give up their season. They should be able to do what they do. They should be able to do both, like LeBron and everybody intended in coming back. But evidently, this shit happens again. So the NBA feels like, yo, let's be the first to step up along with the WNBA. Let's not leave them out of this, and that's a problem in itself.
Well, I think the reason the players feel like they have to do this out and why this kind of has to happen, and just to make a point before I let Jarod and Jamal talk about this, is that look, this country has been about that green, that money. That's the thing. And I know Jarod is always like capitalism above everything else. This is what this is here. And I think what the players are realizing and where they're taking agency to try to be active in this strike is that the only thing y'all respect is the green. Now, that could hurt them in terms of their earning potential in getting that green. But it also, and Jarod's right, the billionaires can wait out the millionaires. Completely right about that. But at the same time, you got to try to hurt them in the pocket somehow. That's the only thing this country is shown to respect over time. Do you guys also think, because I think Bryan brings up a great question, do we think the players are in this for the long haul? Is this just a 1-2 game thing? Is this... Yeah, what do you think?
It sounds like they're in it for the long haul. I mean, you heard what they were saying. I mean, a lot of them were talking about leaving the bubble, So maybe this is just the first step. Maybe they're just so, they're just fed up with the bubble in general. For all we know, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they want to get out anyway, and they're like, we got to stand up for ourselves. I think you got to give the NBA guys a lot of credit here. Okay, yeah. Yes, they didn't have to do it, but they do have leverage, and the microphone is in their face all the time, and people want to see games. People who don't care about them personally or their lives want to see games. So they are hurting people, and also, they are showing that, hey, we can shut things down here. Okay, we're not going to shuck and jive to the hoop. If you don't respect me, you know what I'm saying. So I think what they're doing is huge here. Now, and as far as other leagues, I think we know what the NFL is going to do. Nothing. Okay.
Word.
The NFL is
now. Murph, do you mean like
the Republican Party? Okay.
Right.
They are lockstep. But one of the things that's getting glossed over about what Doc Rivers said, he was making a political statement in the very beginning, which ESPN, when you watch ESPN replay what Doc Rivers said, they take out the beginning, where Doc Rivers said, I was watching the Republican National Convention, and they're promoting all this fear of us, and he's like, we're the ones scared. ESPN won't even play that part.
Mm-hmm.
They want to take it out like it was nothing political. He's just talking about cops shooting black people and all that. So when you get into ESPN, you get into the NFL. It's a different ballgame. The NBA is more progressive. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're more progressive. And like everybody has said, that WNBA are really the heroes. Like, they're not playing around. The NBA should really watch what the WNBA does and just copy them. You know what I'm saying? But but my overall point is, you got to give these players credit, and I think we don't know what the ramifications are yet. We can't predict it. We can't say, oh, it's not going to mean anything, or it means everything. But they took that step, and it's going to mean something, and it already does. You can tell by the news cycle that this was a major blow. And baseball, like we mentioned, Milwaukee already canceled their game, and that was surprising to me also. So it shows you the power that they do have.
It looks like they are in it to the long haul, and I'll keep this part short, because this is the commitment they seem to have, and they're willing to obviously go on strike and sacrifice their season. I think there are players in the bubble who have said they want to leave. Not a lot, but a number of them have been like, why are we even here? So you got to give Kyrie some credit from the beginning, from being like, wait, why are we sure going down there's a good idea? But ultimately, it's like I said in the beginning, man, this is one step in the right direction, but the work must continue, right? Like, because what's so interesting? Yeah, people want to see games, but the reality too is the ratings have not been very good, and that's problematic, right? Because the reality of it is, we all live in a world where most of the people that we connect with and talk to love the NBA and are all about it, and the rest of the country, not so much, right? Like, and the numbers show it, right? Like, the numbers literally show it. Now, part of that's the product and the way in which the NBA markets itself and all that stuff, and that's a different conversation for a different day. But again, I just applaud these men and what they're done and the stance they're taking. And I know they want to actually see things happen and change, and they're pushing stuff forward. You know, I got to talk when I asked Michael Porter Jr. a quick question about this today, and he was like, "Look, it's hard. Like, I'm a rookie in my first playoff trying to figure stuff out. People are getting killed on the street. Like, I mean, it's a lot to manage all at once. And these guys, to your point, Murph, they're feeling it, right? The bubble, it's stress, it's pressure. Oh yeah, I'm trying to win a championship. Like, I got my wife or my girl mad at me because whatever. Well, shit, and then all the extra shit on top of that. And now people looking to us to be like, hey, what do you think about X? Can you do this? And it's again what I say, it ain't just about them. Ask the white athletes too. Yo, ask Tom Brady what he's doing about this. Ask Peyton Manning what he thinks about this. Ask all these other dudes too. And then all of us, man, we got to do shit too, right? That's how this is going to get better. It ain't on these 450 total NBA or 200 or whatever's left in the bubble. It ain't just on them. It's on all of us if we want this to be better.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think it's on that, and we have to push for more voices, including ourselves. That's why, you know, we had this discussion. So I want to thank you, man, Jarod, Hector, Jamal Murphy, Bryan Fonseca. I think I'm going to close this off with what I thought was a powerful quote from Doc Rivers that he said in his post-game press conference after Game 5 versus the Mavs. The thing that really struck me was he said it's amazing that, you know, we keep loving this country, and this country doesn't love us back. And that really stuck with me, and I think that's really the fuel that people need to take for that and question themselves and ask why black people and why people of color, and us four men sitting here, feel that same way. You know, we have to do better. We got to be better. But, you know, we got to have, if you're going to have conversations in sports around this, then you got to have it with some nuance, as my man Jarod always likes to say. Got to definitely do that. So thank you guys. Yeah, go ahead, Jamal. Yeah.
I want to say one more thing that my guy Bill Roden had said like a week or so ago, and he was talking about, and this is why I think what the NBA is doing is big, because, you know, they, like I said before, they have leverage. They make I don't care what the ratings are, they still make money for a lot of white people, okay? And as do the NFL and Major League Baseball. And it's mostly minorities who make up those leagues, right? So it's basically a situation. These sports leagues are minorities brought in to make money for white people, which is why we were brought here in the first place 400 years ago. So just think about that. And so I think that makes it even bigger what these NBA players are saying. No. You're not making money off my back without me, you know, making demands or without me making a statement. So I think it's huge. And remember, they came into the bubble for that purpose, or at least that was the stated purpose. They came into the bubble for that purpose, and then they took an extra step when something crazy happened again. So I got to give them all the credit in the world.
Nah, absolutely got to give them all the credit. And shout out to the man, Bill Roden. Ain't nobody trying to be $40 million slaves anymore. It's a new day. Thank you, guys. Always great discussing. Got to talk sports with nuance. Always great to do that. Appreciate y'all.